My name is Adrian. I'm from SCF. I think I joined SCF 5 years ago. So a bit about myself. I come from a triathlon background, so I used to do triathlon semi-competitively, and then eventually went on to coaching. And then I transit from triathlon coaching to cycling coaching. And someone introduced me to SCF 2015, and eventually I become a full-time staff. And that's where the exciting and adventure began. By the way, this is Shayne.
Hi everybody.
So I met Shayne, I think it was 2 years ago, Shayne? Or was it?
Look, as you get older, Adrian, your memory is not that good, but I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, so I remember I dropped Shayne a message from LinkedIn, and then he replied. I was very surprised because at then Shayne was a busy man. He was the general manager of Greenage Cycling. So when I saw his reply, I was thrilled, and he told me that he would be in Singapore for 3 days. So that's where we hooked up a meeting in one of the restaurants, and then I had a very engaging conversation. Do you remember what we spoke about, Shayne?
Yeah, look, I think we spoke about what provides sustainability, how to grow Singapore cycling, some of the initiatives that could be put in place in Singapore cycling. And one of the main reasons that I did reply, Adrian, and I don't reply to a lot of people, was that I have a real passion and a belief about Singapore and Asian cycling in general. I think there's a real journey to partake on because I see a lot of potential here in Asia, and I'm pretty excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, so that was when the journey began. So I went back, and shared this idea to the MC members, and we decided to put it down into plan 2 years ago. And we approached the Sport SG to see if they can support us. And they supported us, and that is where the birth of Procycling SG began. So just a bit about Procycling SG. The main mission of Procycling SG is to nurture the athlete's commitment and also to provide a world-class daily training environment. And most importantly is to expose our national athletes to international competition as much as possible. Yeah, Shayne, I guess there's only so much you can do through training. It's still the racing that really changed the athlete's craft, right?
Exactly. So getting experience and race exposure to tactics is really important. But there's two elements. I mean, there's the element that you spoke about, improving the riders within Procycling SG, but also it provides a vehicle to stimulate the pathway. So there's two elements to it, as I said. One is to provide the opportunity for Procycling SG athletes, and by doing that, it really stimulates the population to hopefully engage with the community to bring them along the journey as well. So all young aspiring cyclists looking at Procycling SG want to aspire to be in this team one day. So I think it's a very critical link, and it was a bloody good idea.
I guess one of our main aspirations is to eventually send a local Singaporean into the Tour de France. Well, this aspiration, I do get quite a lot of stick because there was a conversation saying that in SEA Games we haven't really got that goal, and we have this aspiration on 2030. It almost seems like it's an impossible task. Maybe Shayne, I remember you told me before that the Australian team started off something nowhere, right? At the start.
Yeah, look, Adrian, I think it's healthy to be ambitious, as long as it's realistic. And just to quantify, what you said, you're not talking about having a Singaporean cyclist in the Tour de France in 2022 or 2023. I mean, the wording was 2030, which is a fair way. And you have to have ambitions, but what is important, it's all about the process of achieving that. I think we're starting to develop a really good process going forward. And you mentioned Australian cycling back in the day. I remember in the late 90s that we used to get around and talk about eventually having an Australian team in the Tour de France. And people would snigger in the background, like, these guys have lost it. They don't know what they're talking about. But it took a while. It took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of energy. It took a lot of passion. It took a lot of engaging people. But in 2012, we had an Australian team in the Tour de France.
Wow.
So, I think as long as you're realistic, as long as you're process-driven, and that's the key, process-driven, realistic, then why not raise the bar in terms of ambition?
Wow, that's amazing, Shayne. I guess we also spend a lot of time with Shayne and myself talking about trying to improve our culture. Culture in cycling, I guess, is very important. Maybe Shayne would like to share a bit on that culture part.
Yeah, I mean, having core values, isn't it? I mean, that's really important. And whether it's cycling or skiing or in business, the core value and the key words, it's the same. It requires a lot of hard work, dedication, commitment, being a team player, process driven. So it's certainly very exciting. But we're big on at Green Edge, my former team. We're really big on team culture, really big on it, because a lot of the times you have to sacrifice yourself for the ultimate team goal. So I think that's really important, and that's something that I'm quite excited. We just finished our last camp with the national training squad, which included Procycling SG members, and that was a really good discussion that we had with that group. And I think a lot of the core values already exist. But some that will help develop.
Yeah, so I guess just to sum it up, what Shayne just mentioned is that one of the key strategy and the key driving force behind Procycling SG is to develop the culture. Because once the culture is developed, then everything kind of falls into place.
Also, Adrian, what I think is critical as well is the community involvement along the way, like engaging with current teams, engaging with current clubs. So really interacting with that. So the idea is to bring Singapore along the journey with us, isn't it? So that's certainly an ambition that we have, and we'll be working very hard to make that happen.
Yeah, so it seems like Procycling SG is the people's academy. It's like everyone is part of this Procycling SG project, because at the end of the day, we really want our local talent to succeed in the international field. And I think Shayne can attest to that. We spend a huge amount of time discussing how can we involve clubs, to work with them and to bring them in, as well as to share with them what we have learned in Procycling SG through our engagement with Green Edge as well. So it was a fun journey, and it was exciting. So I guess we are slowly approaching clubs, all the different clubs in Singapore, and eventually we hope that everybody will have a stake in Procycling SG, and it's not just a SCF entity or a group.
Yeah, Adrian, I think you articulated that really well. We wanted to be the Singapore's team, and somebody that's a team that everybody can relate to and feel a part of. And what was amazing to me was we had our group out at the East Coast Road.
Yeah.
Yep. And we're sitting, and we just doing a specific type of training. And as I'm standing there on the side of the road, the amount of riders that were just going past from either direction, it just was astounding. And I mean, I was just stood there amazed with the quantity, but the quality of bikes out there, and everybody looked like they were already in the World Tour team. And also all the families and the elderly people. So I think the basis of a fantastic cycling community is here. So that's what excites me as well.